what do you guys say we just dive into the topics today? And the first topic we're going to talk about is the brand new Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible 8. And I love me some Tom Cruise, always have, always will. Ever since I saw Risky Business when I was probably 6 years old, I was like, I cannot wait until my parents leave me alone for the weekend so I can dance around in my underwear and call hookers. And so suffice it to say, I've been a fan of Tom Cruise for a very long time, but I've also been a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise for a very long time. And I'm sort of giving you guys, because I like you guys more than anyone else, I'm giving you guys my inside scoop because I haven't even posted my review yet, so I'm probably going to put that out tomorrow over on my main channel, The Flick Pick. But I saw an early screening of this last week in Chicago, so I drove 3 hours to Chicago, and if you know anything about Chicago, there's nowhere to park. So I went into this parking garage at the AMC on the east side of Chicago, and there was no signs telling you the cost of how much it was. So I was like, how much could it be? Come to find out, it was $20 an hour. I got there 3 hours early. It was a 3-hour movie, and then I hung out after the movie for a couple minutes, so it was sort of a very expensive free movie to go watch. But when I was watching the screening of the film, and it was in Dolby Vision, and it sounded really cool, looked pretty awesome, but I will say the exit signs at the AMC in Chicago, as nice of an auditorium as it was, the exit signs are so fucking bright that you could literally see the light resonating onto the screen on the side and sort of dulling out the picture. So I think they should maybe get some new LED lights in there, because it was like having a spotlight in your eyeballs when you tried to watch the movie. And then a quick little backstory. I like to share the little things in life with you guys. There was an empty seat beside me, and keep in mind it was a packed screening of the movie. There was an empty seat beside me, and then there was some kid that had like a broccoli haircut in the other seat with his family. And then in my empty seat, I put my hoodie, I put my Twizzlers, I put my snacks, all my goodies, right? Because that's my seat. You're not allowed to sit here. This is for me. This is where I keep my snacks. And the kid kind of was like looking over at my snack pile, and he's probably like 15, 16 years old. And I looked over at him, and I stared at him in the eyes. And I meant to be funny about it, but it went on way too long. And after about 10 seconds of me just staring dead into his eyes and him waiting on me to say something, I finally said, "Don't take my Twizzlers." He just looked at me with the most awkward glare, kind of smiled, turned away, and never once acknowledged me or even looked my direction for the 3-hour runtime of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So I'm sorry for making that an awkward experience for you, but I would have shared my Twizzlers with you. No, I wouldn't have. As far as the movie Mission Impossible goes, and please share your thoughts down below if you're looking forward to it or if you've seen it. It's a 3-hour movie that does not need to be 3 hours, and I would say there's probably an hour and a half of expositional dialogue throughout this movie where they're just explaining the convoluted, contrived plot. And really, at the bare bones of what this movie is, it's basically the plot to Terminator. Skynet comes online, wants to shoot off nuclear missiles, and only one man can save the planet, and that man's name is Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise. And I have no problems with anything that Tom Cruise actually does in this movie. I think there's two really standout action set pieces that blew me away. And if for anything else, I have a lot of problems with this movie, but I will say this. Go see this movie up on the big screen. Pay for those overpriced movie tickets. Pay for that overpriced popcorn. Definitely sneak your own snacks in. And go watch this movie for the spectacle of those practical stunts that go down in this film from Tom Cruise. There's an awesome diving sequence that gave me chills. I loved it so much. And I have this weird phobia about the open ocean and large bodies of water. So this scene really put me on the edge of my seat. And then there's the very famous plane sequence that you see all over the posters for the movie, where there's a couple prop planes and there's a fight happening. And that was a really cool sequence as well. But as far as the story goes, and as far as all the supporting characters, they all show up. The entire IMF team shows up again. But really, it doesn't feel like anyone has anything that important to do And it sort of feels like they're forcing them into the movie. The other thing, the villain of the film, I absolutely hated with a passion. Now, if you saw Dead Reckoning, do you remember the villain Gabriel, who was this fanatic of this AI entity that wants to take over the world for some obscene reason? I did not like his character. I thought he was boring at best, not menacing, and not at all a threat. That's how I perceived the character. And as far as the entire concept of this AI entity, I think the concept sounds really cool, but as far as the execution goes, it's not. It's sort of like if there was an action movie that came out in 1993 and the internet was a new thing, and some screenwriter was like, you know what? I think AI should be the villain of this movie. I don't quite know what it is, but I'm going to put it into this script. And that's sort of what this feels like. It feels like someone's interpretation of AI before AI was a thing. It feels like the movie Virtuosity, or whatever it was called, from like the mid 1990s. And every time this AI presence is on screen talking with its evil AI voice, the only thing that they show to represent AI is this pulsating visual effects graphic that looks like if you guys ever used Windows Media Player on your PC in the early 2000s, whenever you listen to music and it had that visualizer on the screen with like graphics moving around and pulsating, that's what AI is in this movie. So, but I do still recommend checking the movie out for the action stunt pieces. And pretty much that's it. I wish the movie was better than it was, but really this is sort of like the follow-up, the sequel to Dead Reckoning, which was one of my least favorite Mission Impossible movies. I much prefer like the original or Ghost Protocol, and I think my favorite is probably Fallout. I much prefer that tone. But in this new Mission Impossible movie, the tone is very satire-ish. Everyone is so self-aware of the absurdity of what this movie is, and there's so many jokes that sort of almost break the fourth wall without quite breaking it, that sort of took me out of it. Like, all of the characters reference how obscene the plot to this movie is. And everyone makes the joke. It's sort of like a running gag throughout the movie where they all talk about, yeah, Ethan Hunt, he's the most loyal agent, but he never follows orders. And he's the only man to get this job done. It's like a gag throughout the movie. So it's a little heavy-handed at times, but the best way I can sum this movie up is it's the perfect movie for dads to take their kids to because they're divorced and they have their kids on the weekend. And this is a type of movie that my dad would have taken me to. But definitely not the best Mission Impossible movie. And I'm not even sure if it might be the last. Who knows? But with a budget of $400 million, I don't know if this movie's going to make a lot of money in terms of profitability, because it cost $400 million. And Dead Reckoning didn't do all that well at the box office, so I'm really curious to see how this performs. I hope it does well, because I don't want movies like this to die, especially once again, going back to the practical stunt work in this movie. It's nice to see awesome things happening up on the big screen that don't all take place in front of a green screen. So I will give it credit there.